Hello, everyone. Welcome to tonight's DIFM webinar. We will begin shortly, but I just wanted to review a few items. The participants have muted during the presentation, and just to ensure we have a clear audio presentation, just make sure that your line stay muted. If you have a question during the webinar, please send it to me, the host, via the chat box, and we'll hold a question and answer session at the end with our presenter. The CP certificate will be emailed to everyone who attended tonight, and the presentation handout and the power presentation will be all posted to the DIFM website right under the archived webinars section, which is right under the members only tab. So tonight's webinar is titled Total Wellness with Essential Oils, an introduction for RDs, and it's presented by Marie Ruggles. Marie is a registered dietitian, essential oils educator, and certified diabetes educator. An award-winning author and lifestyle wellness program facilitator. Master's degree in nutrition and public health from Columbia University, and is on a mission to teach others how to care for themselves and their families naturally. By incorporating essential oils into her nutrition protocols, she is able to bring about rapid shifts in well-being, physical and emotional. Her coaches other nutrition practitioners using essential oils for personal well-being and for elevating one's professional profile in a way that opens new doors of opportunity. This week includes working as an RD and a certified diabetes educator in a conventional role, work as a health coach and an essential oils educator in holistic medical practices, and providing support to members of her RD Oil Droppers team. Next publication, Essential Oils plus Superfoods, come two elements of creation for a more rapid shift to wellness, is due out in October. I want to welcome Marie, and we really appreciate you doing this webinar for us. It's of great interest to many. We have a lot of registrants signed up for tonight. So again, just make sure everyone's line is muted so we can hear Marie very clearly. So thank you, Marie, and welcome.
Okay, thank you very much, Amy. Thank you very much for tuning in tonight. I'm so excited to be able to share my experience with you. Essential oils have had a huge impact on my life, both personally and professionally, and I hope that I could share some really interesting tips with all of you. Start with a few things that I'm going to be going over. We're going to talk about exactly what are the oils, where they come from, a little bit about the history, and three simple ways for those who are new to the oils, who just want to have an easy way to start using them. We'll take a glance at the science and the research, some of my favorite uses, and we're going to look at some nutrition tie-ins. Now, I'm going to be putting up a few slides of information that you are very familiar with, but the purpose of this is to show you how I marry the food lessons with my essential oil lessons, because sometimes I'm just doing an essential oils class and nothing else, but very often I'm doing both. Whether I'm with a one-on-one consultation or in group education, I'm tying both oil and nutrition together. I'm going to talk a little bit about everyday self-care, some things that you can do for yourself, and then some ideas for using the oils in your own work. When I became an RD, it became very apparent to me that nutrition alone was not enough for the consider were showing up in my office. So I quickly tried to expand my arsenal, and it was not unusual for a client to leave my office with a CD in one hand, green drink in the other, maybe registration for a yoga class. The oils were initially just another item on my shelf, but they became such a game changer. People who were teaching loved them. because they were simple and effective. And it was just a perfect pairing with my nutrition protocols. So, I started initially just experimenting on myself. I didn't bring them into my office. But really, just like food, it's so important for you, we all know this, to experiment on ourselves with new nutrition information.
I think it is, but it's not.
Hello?
Try to mute. Everyone can just make sure their lines are muted again. Thank you. Go ahead, Marie.
So, and it's so important for us to embrace, self-care practices for ourselves. And then, once we're feeling well and in balance, it's sort of like putting on your oxygen mask before you can take care of this, and it just makes us better coaches. So I do encourage you to experiment on yourself with anything that you're using. So most of my slides are pictures because I know it's probably been already a long day for everyone, but this is just so important. So these next two slides are written. Just take a second to look at that. So what happened here, this is on page 319 of the February Journal of the Academy, is that the Academy's practice research team collaborated with DIFM, and they are now endorsing integrative medicine for RDNs and will be educating us towards this end. And they're looking at us to adjust our lens and to take a more global approach, looking at psychological, social, and so forth. So basically, looking at the whole person, part of our nutrition protocols. So I was thrilled to see that they did include essential oils as part of this evaluation. And they're asking us, what is in your toolbox? What else do you bring to the table? And I think they did this for a couple of reasons. We're looking at becoming more effective in what we're doing, and also we're really facing increasing competition. Where I live in New York, I think there's a health coach in every corner over here. So we're looking to embrace this directive to become leaders, and that is exactly what they said in the paper. So I just want to go back to this page. If you happen to run into any of these authors, do thank them, because this is a huge step forward. They have brought us to. So it's really very, very exciting. So the lens that I work through is one of total wellness and patient empowerment through education. I've seen increasingly in the last 10 years of my practice is more of this sort of diagnosis, adiosis approach to wellness. Medicine is okay when used with good judgment, but I see people getting into trouble when substituting this for self-care. And essentially, they're giving away their power to someone who may not even know their first name if they were to run into them on the street. So this has been, a huge concern for me. And then they wind up in our offices looking miracle. So I call it the drive-through culture approach to healthcare. And I see this just isn't working. What I used to see years ago with 60, 70-year-olds, now seeing with 40, 45-year-olds. One of my areas of great interest that I've been doing some research on. Back in the day, there were women who were really chiefly responsible for the wellness of their neighborhood. They would pass on information mother to daughter, neighbor to neighbor. And we actually had these traditional providers of wellness right here in the United States up until the 1950s. And what happened is they were squeezed out by academically trained physicians who were predominantly males. The interesting thing is that there was really no research when they started academically trained medicine, so they're using some bizarre methods of treatment. And the woman that you see in the middle is actually my great-grandmother. She was one of these women in Europe, was the girl in the neighborhood who had an inventory of wellness resources. And she actually came to New York and did the same thing here. And typically she would go out into the garden, which is what all of these women did, and she would pick something and boil it in honey and make some type of topical or internal application. I've noticed that a lot of RDs are natural healers and really resonate with this kind of, culture of, being kind of down to earth. Let's use what we have, pictures of wellness. A page from one of those books. And what it says is the lay practitioners were undoubtedly safer and more effective than the regulars. They preferred mild herbal medications, dietary changes, and hand-holding to heroic interventions. And this picture here is a water therapy treatment being done on a woman. What would often happen is that people with money would go to the so-called trained healers. But results, they would return back to the domestic healers. So I do a lot of small group education, community groups, and I'm on a mission to put a healer in every home. Basically, that's teaching people to have an inventory of wellness solutions. Of you I know already have this right in your own cabinet. But there's definitely a growing movement of consumer-driven, health-conscious people who are seeking safe and effective wellness tools. And are, without question, some creative practitioners in the wellness arena, and I believe that we can play a key role in educating this segment of proactive consumers. We can help them in taking back their power, encouraging them to take ownership of their bodies, and to embrace at least some level of personal responsibility for the state of health of their bodies. This is what an essential oil farm might look like. That is on the top left, a black spruce farm, and everyone recognizes the lavender farms are all over the world because you need to go all over the world to obtain oils that are unique to each growing region and climate. And essential oils are one of the easiest and most simple home-based tools that I have discovered. Oftentimes when I'm speaking about the oils, I tell the people to forget I'm an RD and just think of me as the girl next door who's interested in non-toxic living. Part of the plant's effectiveness comes from the fact that the oils contain elements of the plant's immune system. Compounds that the plant develops to wage a defense against environmental stressors, which enables certain species of plants to survive, whether it be under scorching sun, invasions of insects, or mold. Those are the very same constituents that we get to benefit from when we use essential oils. Come from many parts of the plant. They're extracted from the flowers, bark, roots, and leaves. And very similar to organic foods, the immune system of organic plants develop high levels of protective compounds because they need to mount a powerful defense. Botanical compounds work in synergy with our physiology. Really interesting. Very similar to the symbiotic relationship we have with plants in ration. They give off oxygen, which we use. We give off carbon dioxide, which we use. And so this is how creation goes, that plants and humans are meant to work together. Distillation would look like when you have good equipment, you can get pure essential oils that do not interact with each other, which is really nice because many oil educators like to use a few oils at one time, and basically they work in harmony with each other to bring about balance. One essential oil contains up to 500 different compounds. That's from a properly grown and distilled plant. True therapeutic grade oil is harvested on a specific day when these constituents are at the proper level, and even at a specific hour, because there's a difference in the level of constituents between 11 a.m. in the morning and 2 p.m. in the afternoon. So a good process will assure that the full biological essence of the plant is present in every drop. The compounds in plants are very closely, they closely resemble our own hormones and neurotransmitters, and they actually attach to these very same receptor sites in our bodies. And that's one of the reasons why they're so effective. Let's just spend a moment talking about what they're not. The oils are aromatic compounds. They will evaporate. They're very tiny. The molecular structure is very tiny. They are not fatty cooking oils. Some people combine them with fatty oils. We call them carrier oil. For example, some people might want to add a few oil drops to grapeseed oil or even almond oil. They are distinctly different. Cooking oils are actually linear carbon-hydrogen structures, where essential oils are complex ring structures. Been around for 5,000 years. I believe that the ancient cultures were just more connected to nature, and they understood the divine intelligence of the plant kingdom. This papyrus, which is an ancient Egyptian text that goes back, I believe, about 3,500 or maybe 1,000 years, contained medicinal recipes that did include essential oils. The Bible, the Old and New Testament, contains over 400 mentions of the oils. A workshop called Healing Oils of the Bible. And interesting is that there's really no mention of how, for the part, there's no mention of how the oils were used. And that's because during Bible times, it was common knowledge. There was no need to describe how to use them. This basically describes what I do in my work. Their fruit will serve for food and for healing. I use food and botanical extracts. And what I love about the oils is that they're so simple. In terms of other botanicals, I love herbs. I know many of you are already using them. Sometimes they come in combination with supplement preparations. But I believe that you need somebody knowledgeable in herbs, in either the formulation of these products, or if you're using, just herbal preparations, I believe that you need an herbalist because they're just much more complex. What I do, I combine foods, particularly superfoods, And it helps the people that I work with to just have a more rapid shift to wellness. Pair very well together. Just mention superfoods for a moment. Not in common with the essential oils, and I think that's one of the reasons why they make such a perfect pairing. They both contain very potent concentration botanical compounds. You eat broccoli for breakfast with a side of kale, there's actually a very good chance that you're being cut short on nutrients. The green dots in this show the fertile soil in the United States, and it's really a diminishing area, and it's of great concern. So I just love the idea of being able to incorporate foods that have extra constituents. Really important that superfoods can repair gene mutations that otherwise lead to cell damage. If you remember nothing else from this presentation, remember limonene, because that's one of the compounds that we find concentrated in the peel of citrus fruit. And we'll get to that later on when we're talking about the citrus oils. But the umbrella picture here is that cell malfunction, quality of life, leads to suffering. But we have the tools, and RDs are uniquely qualified to share these tools. That's basically using essential oils plus superfoods is the equivalent of having boots on the ground against the daily bombardment of what our bodies are faced with. And I've just spent a lot of time researching superfoods, and at the end of the presentation, I'll show you where you can find my lists. I actually have several lists of superfoods I use on a daily basis when I'm working. Moving on to the everyday uses of the essential oils, I want to give full disclosure. My business model includes providing essential oils to registered dietitians along with training. And after many years of research, I have chosen to affiliate with one company. And with this partnership, I'm required to follow the FDA language guidelines. Typical of, for example, somebody who's working with the supplement company, we are asked to not use any disease or condition terminology. So I'm going to be using common language, some general language, and even the research citations that I'm include here will say blood sugar support, but you will not see any diseases mentioned, and I won't be mentioning them either. About three simple ways to apply the oils. The first one is topical. Any oil that is applied to the feet will be everywhere in the body within 20 minutes. So oil educators like to say if you don't know where to put an oil, just put it on the feet. You can also put an oil just right down behind your ears and right down your neck, just as if you were applying a perfume. And if you have a localized concern, such as shoulder discomfort, that's where the oil would go. Another great area is just on the wrist. Personally, I do not dilute oils for myself, but I recommend that if you decide to start using the oils, that you get a book and you just look at some of the dilution guidelines, particularly for children. For example, I might recommend using 1 drops of oil in a teaspoon of a carrier oil, or if it's a child with no allergies, autism, or sensitivities, I might do 3 drops in a tablespoon of the carrier grapeseed oil. When you apply the oils to the neck, this is what happens. They're very tiny molecules, and so they do penetrate the skin very easily. and then they will actually get to the carotid and enter into circulation. Oops. Soluble, they will pass through the dermal layer of the skin and to the area here where the blood vessels are present. And again, because they are lipid soluble, they will cross the lipid cell membranes and absorbed into circulation, and that's exactly where you want them. They could also be used internally. You could put 1 drop in a teaspoon of honey or peanut butter, or a drop in your tea, and then in the end I'll speak about using them in cooking. So I started using the oils topically and inhaling them, and I went to using them internally in capsules when I became more familiar with the oils and became educated. So I recommend that you do the same. A lot of oil educators do put oils into capsules on a fairly regular basis. Is the third application, and this has both physical and emotional effects. Emotional including cognitive support, because you inhale the oil, it's going into your lungs and getting into your circulation, but it's also going to your brain. Diffusers are a wonderful alternative to scented candles and plug-ins, which both contain neurotoxins. What I love about the oils is what aromatherapists will refer to as scent memory. So a very practical application of this would be if you have a baby and you're putting essential oil on your neck while you're holding, breastfeeding, or cuddling the baby, and then you put them into their crib. If you take that same essential oil and put it just on a napkin right side of their crib, they will sense your presence in the room with them, because the sense of smell is very, very strong, especially in infants. Another good example that I love using with college students is to have them use cedar wood while they're studying, particularly when they're doing a lot of memorization. And during the test, to use the same cedarwood oil and either put it on the collar of their shirt or wear an aroma necklace, so they're able to breathe that same oil during the test. And this has been shown in clinical research to actually support retention of facts and help people do better on testing. So that's the memory part of this. The essential oils exert a powerful influence on the system. So as you inhale an oil, they are green in a nanosecond. And the limbic system is the control center for emotions and memory. So of particular interest for me is trauma and of the brain that does not respond to talk therapy, but it responds to scent. Clients love when we can offer them something very concrete to assist with their emotional distress. If you do any sort of global evaluation of your clients, you'll find most of them have something going on that level. It's wonderful when we can experience this type of support along with your food program. You really want them to continue their counseling, because that's another wonderful way to help them. And I advise them to bring their essential oils along to a counseling session. This is an energy robber. There are so many comorbidities that are involved when people are in chronic stress. And so many of the people who come to us are in serious need of emotional support. When we can bring our clients into emotional balance, they have more energy and more focus for our programs, and you see an increase in compliance. Lavender, great oil, to deal with the occasional stresses associated with daily life. Another benefit of stress support is reducing cortisol levels, which can then in turn reduce abdominal fat. Stress resistance is a hallmark of vitality in the plant kingdoms. When they develop those compounds to deal with their stressors, we could benefit from those constituents when we inhale the oils. We know that our cells actually store emotions. That is documented in many books. The Biology of Belief is one of them. Great way to help people with shifting in their emotional state is to diffuse at bedtime. Most diffusers will run for about 3 hours. Our clients who have chronic distress, they can get damage, and we could use the essential oils to reduce nerve tension, so this will improve their digestion. Bergamot combined with lavender is actually one of my favorite blends, and there's actually a study in progress right now in England using this for children who have multiple issues, one of them being nervous tension. And I'm already using it and recommending it, and I am positive that this study is going to have a very nice outcome. So this keeps clients coming back when they see that you're helping them with emotional release. Also great for cognitive support. Your handout has a recipe, a homework helper recipe. Cedarwood is an oil. Again, lipid solubility will pass the blood-brain barrier, and it helps to oxygenate the brain, decreasing absent-mindedness, increasing focus. So the point where I might segue into a nutrition lesson, I'll be talking about this meta-analysis that was done last year showing that vitamin D levels under 50, there was a 63% increase in the risk of developing dementia. I'll talk about how the brain is made up of mostly fat and how we can have such a positive message, making people feel empowered by their personal food choices, and then perhaps have trainers or guides showing them some foods. Cadea is one of my favorite oils, 1 drop under the tongue for blood sugar support. This study from the Journal of Diabetes and Metabolism had used 3 different blends, and they found that this particular blend, I'm showing here the cinnamon oregano, was most effective in healthy blood sugar support. So I always recommend using a blood sugar meter whenever using the oils to help somebody with healthy blood sugar levels. Oils are used for supporting healthy joint and cartilage function, alleviating minor aches. And if you can do this, then you can get increased exercise tolerance and therefore program compliance. Wind and peppermint are 2 of about 5 amazing oils for healthy joint support. I'm going to spend a little bit of time talking about peppermint, though, because that is one oil with a lot of great uses just for everyday support. Just quickly want to mention that there are 100,000 emergency room visits a year for overuse of acetaminophen. And this is sometimes the problem, that it actually in multiple medications that people might be taking, and it doesn't take a lot to OD on that. And we see a peppermint appearing here. The oils, really nice for abdominal, for GI support, alleviating nausea, gas. They're antispasmodic. You could just put one drop right on the abdomen. For kids over 6, I use 1 drop of peppermint and honey. That's my tummy tamer recipe. So I like to keep things really simple, and I do develop a lot of recipes that just contain 1 or 2 oils, and at the end I'll show you how to access those. So along the lines of nausea, there has been research using ginger and lemon as well, finding that they're very effective. So if I was helping somebody with chronic nausea or the more challenging scenario, I would use all 3 of those oils. You are doing great work with nutrition protocols for the GI system. GI protocols often take weeks to have an effect as the issue is unraveled and worked on. And the essential oils can provide immediate solutions, sometimes having an effect in less than a minute. So this can increase compliance and help with follow-up visits. So at this point, I might segue into speaking about what goes on in the stomach, doesn't stay in the stomach, perhaps lesson on probiotics. Getting a sense of how positive and empowering our message can be. I just think right now it's a very exciting time to be in nutrition because we do have an expanded toolbox of effective solutions. Peppermint is very nice for helping with hot flashes. That's a concern at night. I recommend that women will put drops on each foot at bedtime, forehead, chest, back, and even put a drop in a glass of water. Peppermint is also great for head tension, and it could just be applied to the temples. Some people like to put peppermint and lavender along the entire hairline, front to back. Then when they have more experience in education, using those, and this can actually lead to soothing within seconds. It's a great ally for the gym. It's refreshing. It's energizing. It can definitely boost the program. I'll typically reserve this for a few weeks into a program when a client comes in and they've gone from exercising for 10 minutes down to 10 minutes a few times a week. And I say, hey, I can offer you. And the great thing about this is that instead of reinforcing the importance of getting enough exercise, you're offering them a solution, and it really changes the energy of the conversation. Instead of being the enforcer, you now become the person who's a resource. You're just, abundant with solutions. I'm at the gym 7:30 at night after work. I haven't eaten, and the last place I want to be. So I take a little bit of peppermint and I put it on my wrist, and I put a little bit just under my nose. Can continue inhaling it, and it just helps to get me going. To use essential oils with yoga. If I'm doing a more vigorous type of yoga, I'm going to apply something that's going to open up my chest. So that would be a Ravensara. Or be a more meditative yoga, I'll use cedarwood. And it's just something that uplifted and relaxed by the time I leave. Can be used for prayer and meditation. And when we combine oils, there's a synergistic effect where you get more with the sum. So I use a lot of proprietary blends in my work. This is a very easy combination, 2 drops lemon to 1 drop frankincense. And a lot of people love this. It just feels like it opens up the space to do a prayer or meditation session. Moreover, 20,000 studies, published studies, 15,000 in our PubMed, over 5,000 in the European PubMed, and they have an incredible safety profile. One of the lead researchers that I follow has been cautioning that 75% of the oils are now adulterated. So I would recommend not to buy. There are professional rebottlers, and so the effectiveness of the oil, what they buy the oils, dilute them, you would never know they were opened, and the effectiveness is decreased. But my concern is, because I work with a lot of young families, is the safety, because we don't know what extended with, so that therein lies the problem. So no matter what oil company you choose to use, just do your due diligence about the entire process. The seed selection, the farming, the bottling, and then purchase directly from their website or by calling them. The bottling is not regulated, so they don't have to declare what they have added in there. What's happening is you're probably going to see the same thing that happened with supplements, a little bit of a bad rap, because some of the oils that are being used in research are adulterated. And that is because many people are interested in doing the research. These are the journals where the research is appearing, but they're not educators, they're not aromatherapists necessarily, and so they're not really knowledgeable about selecting the right products. But there are essential oil chemists, just like there are bacteriologists and microbiologists, and so everyone is interested. I see from the list of journals here, dermatology, neuroscience, disease. I'll be in every home in about 20 years, and so I'd love to see RDs taking a frontline role in educating the public about the oils. So you should be an expert to use or to speak about the oils. I have a selected collection of resources that I really love, but this is a site that I'm particularly excited about. You do have to pay to join, but they're allowed to speak about diseases because it's a non-profit organization. I would not join now because it's in a development phase, but I think in about a year it's going to be just an incredible resource where all the research is listed, and they will have freedom of speech. Occurs at the level of the DNA, and this is kind of a synopsis of what happens. The phenolics in the oils clean receptor sites. The sesquiterpenes will of a phenolic is grapefruit. The sesquiterpenes delete misprogrammed DNA. Ginger is an example. And the monoterpenes will restore the correct DNA info. Hazel is an example of that. And this is a book, if anyone would like to dive into the chemistry, as I did. This is a nice resource. Basically, this just, combines very nicely the way I work, and I know a lot of you work with a more of a core approach. I have, personally witnessed what essential oils can do, and after diving into the science, just decided that it would be a disservice not to share the benefits with everyone. And they tie in perfectly with the Academy's new approach, the directive for a more global approach to wellness. In terms of fat metabolism, there have been a couple of studies showing that grapefruit oil decrease the rate of fat cell formation. It can decrease the appetite. That is, even through simple inhalation, can decrease weight conference through massage. And Lyme, even people are on a drug known to cause weight gain, can cause weight loss. This just demonstrates the versatility, different ways you can support the body, sort of as blood sugar, it's sort of through multiple pathways. Experienced oil educators, including myself, will often take lime fruit, 5 drops of each in a capsule to help with our own fat metabolism. But again, I recommend getting a little bit more educated and deciding how you want to use oils before using internally yourself. Going back to the emotional support piece, this is a real nice recipe. Just equal parts, 1 drop each, tantrums, etc. This is great for adults too, but if you have an book you're working on or a child needs to do some homework, I would eliminate the Roman chamomile. This is my agitation cessation recipe, but that chamomile can be overcoming if there's work to be done. The great seasonal support blend, lavender with lemon and peppermint. And any of the benefits, by the way, that I mentioned are only for true, pure therapeutic grade oils. So this is a great blend to help people enjoy the outdoors. It's great for a healthy breast support. A lot of oil educators will anoint their breasts and sometimes ovaries and uterus daily, just sort of a routine right after the shower. And I just want to show you, this is the research on frankincense, and I encourage you to go to PubMed and take a look at the research. This is an absolutely fascinating oil. This is what it looks like. They split the tree, and it oozes out, distilled. And that is what the tree looks like. I'm always amazed by how simple the tree is, because it is a fascinating oil. And that segue over here into a discussion about how cancer cells are fed by sugar. That is a lung cancer cell dividing. And put in a word for breastfeeding and speak about, that's last year, how breastfeeding not only helps support weight loss, but increases the risk for one of the most aggressive breast cancers. Support is one of the most amazing uses for the oils, and love is that every plant is different. So these are all great immune supporting oils I have listed here. You could use them in combination to get the synergistic effect. But I love that the plants are different every season, and you will not develop resistance ever, because every oil bottle will be different from the one before. So I love to support children before school by putting a few drops of immune supporting blend on their feet. And this is actually a picture of my bathroom, and this is my diffuser going all winter long, 10 minutes while I'm getting dressed with a blend, so that I know before I leave the house that my immune system has already gotten a boost. In the spring, I'll switch over to a support blend. That go outdoors, I've already been supported in that way. So these are going all year long. Take the opportunity at this point to speak about CAFO, combined CAF versus free range. Every time a child, you are giving them a dose of antibiotics. And so antibiotic resistance, which is a phenomenal problem now, it's going to get worse, starts with the plate. Bred organic cows are hard to find in some markets, and that meat is expensive. And so I recommend that people eat less meat and just get a better quality when you do, and wind up being cheaper. The health issue here is minor compared to the animal welfare issue. I want you to be underwhelmed by the next few slides I'm going to show you. These are focusing on respiratory support, but what I want you to see is how versatile the oils are, and basically you just use whatever works for you at the moment. So you can simply put the bottle right up to your nose and inhale. Put drops in your palm, rub with the other palm, and inhale. It can be simple. But for respiratory support, you can apply oils to the lungs by getting the chest and the back. You're getting it from both sides. Your diffuser. The physician, have a bowl with warm hot water, eyes closed, or simply just by applying to the lung points on each. Some essential oils are better and safer choices for children, so you would want to use a guide if you're using them on children. And if any irritation ever occurs from an oil, you would just neutralize it by immediately applying fatty oil, such as olive oil. Then another thing you can do for respiratory support is to make your own inhaler. This is a really nice recipe that can prevent a need sinus support from developing into a more intense need. It's always good to point out to people where the sinuses are, because you can also do direct application on the skin right where the sinuses are. So this is a very cleansing recipe. Oil blends, by the way, are diluted with a carrier oil. So you just want to check the label. For example, it might have almond oil, so if there's an allergy, you'd want to be aware of that. And you don't need any fancy equipment. You could just put this same recipe on a cotton ball or on a tissue and keep it right at desk. Another opportunity to segue into something nutrition, for example, talking about the stomach-lung axis, how fructose has an effect on bronchitis. Not good for the lungs, having an excess amount. Incense and lavender are two oils that you could just use straight in or put in your moisturizer, and they slow the skin aging. And lots of benefits with the oils for teens as well. They can put oils right into their toner. I'd like to add in this information that 65% of whatever you put on your skin is absorbed into your body. So you should check out any cream that you're using with Environmental Working Group database. Make sure it's pure. You don't want to put oils in with impure creams. Oil containing cosmetics will definitely be flooding the market. They most likely will be mostly with synthetic oils or perfume grade. So there could be some toxicity. They definitely won't be having therapeutic properties, so just be careful of that. Is using lavender or some of the other calming oils. So important. The research is crystal clear for our clients, the cognitive, emotional, and physiological need for adequate sleep. So if you can help your client to get adequate sleep, it's a huge part of the game. So I often recommend just 1 to 3 drops of lavender on each foot, and that is often enough to do it right at bedtime. Kids really resonate with the oils and like to make a little spray bottle with their own blend, and they'll spray their pillow and their sheets before bedtime. And you have to tell them what oil to use. They just seem to know. This is where I was when I first heard about the oils. I was with a holistic practitioner. I was having a lot of problems, and she showed me a little bottle of oil, and I was out of her mind. But then I dig into the chemistry, and I understood. My family thought I was practicing some type of New Age witchcraft, but then again, they've been through a lot with a nutritionist and sort of being my own personal laboratory for every new nutrition invention. But guess who never blinked when I told them about the oils? My clients. Core D trust factor. They are just totally on board with this. In my research, I found out that being used at many hospitals, Beth Israel right here in New York, veterinary offices, medical practice, pharmacists, acupuncturists, prison, and I started to interview people and was amazed at what I saw. We consult with an integrative cardiologist, and my main role in that office is as an essential oils educator. I continue to work in a traditional role as an RD. I love being a CDE, but oils have really taken on a life of their own, elevating my professional profile and opening up many new doors of opportunity. And I love the science piece behind them. Some of my favorite uses are simply having our own home an inventory of wellness solution. This is a healthy ear support recipe, and I just love, no matter what's going on, I can just reach into my cabinet and there's something there. Being a first responder in my own home. Therapy is probably my favorite use of the oils. They contain the limonene, so you can soak your blueberries in water. Sometimes I'll add some bitter and lemon drops to clean my berries. I put orange drops in a smoothie, so I'm getting the limonene, and I'm also getting amazing flavor. You make broccoli the same way year after year. 2 drops lemon, 1 drop basil, and you don't want to over flavor because these are very, very powerful. Remember, 500 compounds in 1 drop. So you have to be very careful when you're pouring. Oatmeal over the top with a little coconut oil and ginger, 1 drop ginger. Or you can peppermint brownies. And flavor layering. This is my lime on lime method. Sometimes I buy store-bought guacamole, and I just bring it to new life by adding a drop of lime. Then I take lemon juice and I add lime oil to it, or cook something with ginger and lemon, and then I'll add those oils, and it just is an amazing flavor experience. Love being able to use the diffuser at or in the bedroom or at my office, just taking care of something while you're busy about your work or your sleep. Love the fact that they can be rolled on the feet, very convenient, and the oil is everywhere in the body within 20 minutes. For oral hygiene, I'm having great tools to use with my nutrition clients. Of my greatest experiences, normally I get nauseous after 2 days of flying, so I would take ginger 3 days prior to flying, put on a little oil, and use an acupuncture watch, and that would give me like 50% relief. I was on a missionary trip last year. My ginger was stolen because it looked like candy. When I got to the airport, my acupuncture watch didn't work, and all I had was my peppermint oil. On my stomach, my neck, and I inhaled it, and a 100% relief of my nausea related to motion and fleeing. BioScan, it measures 76 markers. This is always on my desk when I'm doing consult. The oils are in this program, and it helps me to prioritize what is most important to work on the client and what oil to use. This is called Raindrop. It's a technique that I teach others who have a license to do hands-on application. Right now I'm working with an RD, training her in this. She happens to also be a massage therapist. So it's another great application for the oils. For me personally, I've always wanted something more. I've given 110% in my work but was rarely rewarded for my passion. And with the oils, I have gone from sitting by the phone to turning down business. Essential oils don't resonate with you. There are many other ways. If you are driven, you can become LEED certified, going to do a functional class pretty soon, I understand, and we already have our different practitioners who are offering wonderful classes right now. You can specialize autism, for example, or you could jump in exactly where I did, which is superfoods. And the link for my superfoods list is on the bottom of my website where you see the coffee cup on the book, and my nutrition must-reads and superfood list. And you can start very simple with my best-in-class list. For example, shallots and 40 times more phytonutrients than common onions. So you could start just with some really basic food information. Granny Smith apples have 13 times more nutrients than other common apples. Check that out. I've been inspired to learn more and to share the benefits of these botanical blessings with others. Our bodies are capable of healing themselves given the right inputs with toxic choices. And I think it's just a very exciting time to be in RD because we have the power to help so many people take their power. Thanks much for joining. See, I went over on time, so thank you for staying. Amy, if we have time for questions, I'd be glad to stay on. Otherwise, anyone can click on my website, request the call or contact me and questions there. Thank you so much. It was such an honor to speak with you tonight.
Very much, Marie. That was wonderful. Very, very well done. I will just ask just a few questions. There were quite a few that had questions about using essential oils in food. Some clients have expressed that it's too toxic to cook with, or another person had read in an herbal medicine book that essential oils should not be ingested. So I guess could comment on that, and are there different grades that would differ in whether they can be safely consumed?
That's a good question. So I would recommend working with a company that goes through the trouble to put the labeling on their bottles. So you look right on the bottle and see if it says dietary supplement, and then you'll know that it's safe for consumption. And I use the oils in cooking because of their power. The flavors are very strong, which is amazing to enhance your dishes, but you only need to do 2 drops for an entire pot. Now, I make a glass of lemon water every morning for detoxing in the morning, and I just simply put 1 drop of lemon into a tall glass of water. Very safe that way. Now, of course, you can always do a skin patch test on yourself, 1 drop on the inner arm. And my website, I do a lot of safety education, so this is kind of just a basic overview, but I do encourage people to read a good book and to understand the oils and to enjoy them, not to fear them, but just to respect them. They are plant compounds.
Is there a third-party evaluator like the USP for dietary supplements?
I think so. No, I don't believe there is for oils. So whatever company you choose, you really want to do your due diligence and ask them all of those questions about, how the plants are raised or chemicals used on them. Is everything in the oil on the bottle? Because that's the biggest concern, is not so much the oil, but something that's added to the bottle. It's regulated, and so it does not have to be listed on the bottle. So that's really where the big concern comes in.
And what do you use as a base for the oils in the spray bottles? Or
Water and it's going to be around for a while. I'll put a little witch hazel in it. Use water.
Are there any foods or oils that counteract with the essential oils, or items that should not be used with essential oils?
Mainly those cosmetic products that contain toxic elements. That's why I showed the cosmetic database from the Environmental Working Group. The oils do not pair well with toxic substances. So you have a moisturizer, for example. You're going to put that into the database, the cosmetic database, to make sure it's clean, which means it would come up as a 1 or 2 on their rating scale before you add your oils to it.
Great. Would peppermint drops on skin be okay with someone who has GERD because the intake of peppermint aggravates GERD?
Yep, some people do find that very helpful. So for the first application, I would just put my finger up to the bottle and not quite take a full drop. Put a little bit there and how it resonates with them. But a lot of people do find it very helpful for everything GI. And
let me just, we have a...
I want I just want to add to this. Peppermint tea contains different constituents from peppermint oil. So for any reason you don't want to use the oil or just concerned about it, use tea, because for some people, and not for situations where we know the tea doesn't work, but for other reasons you don't want to use the oil, you can try the peppermint tea. But those do contain different compounds from the oils.
What would you recommend to support liver detox?
There are actually blends that are used for liver detox. So it wouldn't be one oil, and that person be better off contacting on my website and asking me that, and I could list out all the oils because I don't actually have them memorized.
And do the oils expire?
I like to keep oils around, I say, for 3 years. Some people, there's actually some controversy in the field on this. Some companies will say that their oils last forever. I believe anything that's plant-based, the natural compounds are going to break down eventually. I like to tell people to try and use their oils up within 3 years. And if an oil contains blue tansy, which you'll know because it's blue, might be in one of your blends, I recommend to refrigerate that because the one oil that we know does break down.
So of any certification, or what are your thoughts on a certification in this field?
Well, I think aromatherapists, I study with aromatherapists, and I think they just have a tremendous wealth of knowledge to offer. I don't believe it's necessary to be certified to do this because I believe they're meant to be in everyone's hands. We just take a very simple approach to using the oils. But I will say that there are aromatherapists who are doing medical aromatherapy classes. So if you are planning to take it to the level, that might be something to consider. But we have very good resources. The books that contain evidence-based information that can be used as referrals, as a reference. I'm all for education. I'm a reference junkie myself. For the average oil user, it's not necessary. We have resources that are really very nice and make it very simple to just jump in and use for everyday applications.
Wonderful. Thank you. And again, on the screen, essentialoilsforrds.com. That's your website. And then if they were to go on that website, they would find contact information to...
Yes, you could either request a call or submit a contact form. And I would just be very grateful if anybody has the time to just out the evaluation form, because I'd like to know what you would like to learn more about, because I'm getting many requests to do this. So I'd really appreciate your feedback. And I will answer all the questions to the best of my ability. After I do a program like this, I understand there were 500 people registered. I can get backed up for a few weeks, but I'll do the best of my ability to answer all the questions.
And again, the slides and the recording will be on the DIFM website on the webinars tab. And I will send out the CPE certificate of attendance to everyone who attended the presentation this evening. Along with that, I'll send out the webinar evaluation form. So thank you very much, Marie, for a wonderful presentation. It was great interest to many people. So it seems like we're just scratching the surface on this. So thank you for enlightening us. And
okay, and thank you, everyone, for sharing your Monday with me. And thank you so much, Amy, for all your support.
Thank you. Good night.
Good night.